Did PMLN sabotage the IMF deal on purpose? My name is Hamza Azhar Salam and you're watching the Pakistan Daily. Since many months, Pakistan has been struggling to sign a staff level agreement with the International Monetary Fund worth a paltry sum of $1.1 billion. According to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government, the lender of last resorts has been changing goalposts during negotiations, asking for some factors to be considered, and when they are fulfilled, according to the government, the IMF changes the conditions required to sign the staff level agreement. But has the Pakistani government been sincere in its negotiations with the IMF, and have they genuinely tried to sign this agreement and to ensure that it happens, or have they actively tried to ensure that the deal is not only delayed but possibly sabotaged to the extent that there is no IMF deal on the table anymore? Today in this video, we'll explore how sincere Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government has been in regards to signing this staff level agreement with the IMF, the delay of which has resulted in a severe economic crisis in Pakistan. Mind you, because of the purported conditions of the IMF agreement, the government of Pakistan significantly raised prices, which has led to a year-on-year inflation rate of over 46%. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this means that the prices last year have increased by by almost half this year, and this is only 1 year's performance, and we don't know where this inflation will stop. Because of this delay by the government in signing this agreement, we've seen the dollar shoot up to 300 rupees when our finance minister Ishaq Dar said that he valued the dollar under 200. So according to the finance minister's valuation, the dollar is around 33% overvalued, but yet there's a shortage of dollars in Pakistan. It's not even properly available in the open market anymore. You need connections, and you need some friends in currency circles to sell you a large amount of dollars right now in Pakistan. But there's three events which happened, which in my opinion, which prove that the PDM government, the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government, actively sabotaged the IMF staff level agreement. So the first factor which should be considered is the departure of Finance Minister Miftah Ismail from the government. Now, Miftah Ismail was criticized by his own party when he tried to fulfill the conditions of the IMF, and when he tried to increase petrol prices. The Prime Minister's son ultimately called him a clown, showing the divisions which existed within the PMLN leadership. And some people have claimed that Miftah Ismail did not even take the Prime Minister's calls on certain occasions and was only working with GHQ. Now, I don't know whether that happened or not, but I do know that had Miftah Ismail survived as Finance Minister of Pakistan, the staff level agreement would have been signed by now, and it would have been signed many months ago. But the reason Ishaq Dar was brought in as Finance Minister was because it was being claimed that Miftah was too eager to please the IMF and to impose inflation on the people of Pakistan. And when Ishaq Dar would come, the inflation would be controlled, and PMLN would be ready for elections because Ishaq Dar would be a financial genius who would control inflation, who would make the rupee stronger against the dollar. And even I, for a very long time, believed this, and I apologize for my previous statements regarding this. But what we saw was that Pakistan's economy went into a downward spiral, and it's still in that spiral. The dollar has now touched 300 in the open market, and despite whatever our finance minister says, the IMF staff level agreement has still not been signed. So the firing of Miftah Ismail just before the staff level agreement was signed is the first proof that the PDM government actively sabotaged the IMF staff level agreement. Now, the second proof that there was a sabotage involves a statement by the Honorable Finance Minister of Pakistan. And Ishaq Dar went on the record addressing an unrelated question he said that Pakistan would not compromise on its nuclear assets or its long-range ballistic missiles on the IMF's beckoning or on any other financial institution or external powers orders. Now, this was very weird because it implied that the IMF had asked Pakistan to compromise on its nuclear arsenal. Now, the IMF has been very clear regarding this. Just days after Ishaq Dar's statement, the IMF MD, she openly said that the IMF has not talked about Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. Officials of the IMF confirmed to Pakistani journalists that there was no discussion regarding ballistic missiles or Pakistan's nuclear arsenal in the negotiations for the staff level agreement. So why would Pakistan's finance minister bring it up? There's just no logic, there's just no argument which could show. Maybe Pakistan was playing hard to get, but why? When Pakistan needs something from a lender, Pakistan would create conditions which positively impact the lender's opinion about the country, rather than antagonize the lender to the extent that perhaps the lender does not want to lend anymore. So this statement in particular, made by the finance minister on nobody's orders per se, shows that there was a sabotage involved in the IMF staff level agreement. And the last factor which I want you to consider is the announcement of a fuel adjustment in the prices. Now, Dr. Musaddiq Malik went on national television and he announced an absolutely ridiculous plan, stating that petrol for bikes would be sold 100 rupees cheaper than petrol for cars. So that would mean that petrol for bikes would approximately be 200 rupees per litre, and petrol for cars would be approximately 400 rupees per litre. Now, this is a plan which cannot be implemented. Pakistanis, as you know, in this period of inflation, it's impossible to implement it because people would go fill their bikes with fuel. They would go home, they would use the fuel from the bike to fill their car, and they would take their bike again. So such gimmicks cannot be implemented, but they do have the potential to significantly alter any negotiations Pakistan has with lenders, with the IMF in particular. Now, the IMF strongly reacted to the statement because such a plan had not been discussed with the International Monetary Fund beforehand. And where would Pakistan get the money to subsidize the cheap fuel for the motorcyclists? And there hadn't been any survey done as to what the amount of subsidy would be required for this project would be. So this was a completely ridiculous plan announced by the government in a serious way. You know, it wasn't a political statement, it was an economic policy which was given by the PDM government, which can never be implemented, which will never be implemented. You can save this video, you can save my recording, and you can use it as proof that this project will never be implemented. But still, it was mentioned by the the government for the sole reason to sabotage the IMF agreement. Now, lastly, why would the government sabotage the IMF agreement? That is the most important question. Ladies and gentlemen, the PDM government is not going into elections in Punjab because they're scared of their unpopularity. They're scared to face the people who are suffering from inflation. Now, if there is financial stability in Pakistan, they will have to go to elections. They will have to release 21 billion rupees, which the Supreme Court had ordered, and the process of democracy will continue in Pakistan. But if there is an emergency-like situation in Pakistan, perhaps a financial emergency where Pakistan doesn't have any money, then PDM can perhaps argue that they should stay beyond the parliamentary term of 5 years, and maybe it would serve as an excuse of a neutral caretaker government or an extended caretaker government which goes beyond 90 days. So the less said, the better during this time. But I do think that the citizens of Pakistan should at least question why the IMF staff level agreement has not happened by now.